Hey reader, this is Centaur here, and today we are here with a battle report. This is the first one we're doing on the channel, so I'm not gonna lie. There's gonna be some bumps, and we're gonna figure out whether or not we like it, and whether I make any changes as we go along. This battle report was played by me and a friend of mine. I am testing out an army that I'm looking to take to an event at the end of May. It is 1,000 points, third edition, no caps, other than the fact that it's only 1,000 points, so slightly lower than some of the armies that you'll see online. And then there's a buddy of mine who's getting into bolt action. He's very new, and he was just like, just give me a list that you think will be similar to something you might actually see at the event because I want to help you out. And so even though my Germans are nowhere close to done, I said, well, I think we're going to see some German armies, both because they recently got an army book, but also because, frankly, they're pretty good. And so because of that, we have two armies that are present, and I'm very, very excited to show this to you. I am running a Greek army, which you can see from the top picture there. The flags kind of give it away on the two cavalry sections. Sporting 18 order dice at 1,000 points, and he is running a German army. Nothing special. In fact, we took basically everything straight out of the core core rule book. Don't need to worry about the army's books just in case. And he only has 15 order dice, but as you'll see soon, that's because of what he chose to invest in. So for my army, I am rocking 3 platoons. I have a rifle platoon commander, purchased inexperienced, along with 2 sections of 8-man regulars with light machine guns. These are mountain infantry, though, so they cost an extra point each, and they all have the tough fighter special rule. I don't anticipate using them in close combat, but I want to dissuade my opponent from doing close combat, and so I decided, hey, 16 points toward changing the way they play the game is probably worth it. 2 7-man veteran cavalry sections rounds it out. And then we go to the heavy weapons platoon. We have another inexperienced officer leading 2 machine gun teams, 2 medium mortar teams with spotters, and 3 anti-tank rifle teams, all of those being regular. So pretty straightforward stuff, nothing crazy. And then we have an artillery commander, inexperienced, leading 2 light autocannons with the extra autocannon attached at regular. So 65 points for basically a twin light autocannon, 4 shots each turn, which is nice. And then 2 light anti-tank guns. Now, some of these options I probably wouldn't take in a highly competitive scenario, the AT guns being good examples of this. But we were kind of encouraged as we're going into this. This is not supposed to be like, an ultra competitive tournament. We're going to be welcoming in some new players. And so I said, you know what? I have these models. I should just use them, and just take advantage of it. So I'm playing a less than optimized army to start with, doing less than optimized, not a whole lot of less than optimized build, but there is definitely some of that there. And honestly, I was okay with that. I was like, I want to try something a little bit new and a little bit interesting. I'm also going to see whether or not armored platoons are absolutely worth it. Greece doesn't really have really good armor, but I'm trying out not having one. And we'll just see what ends up happening with that. On the opposite side, we have a relatively meta-built German army for my buddy to play. He has a regular rifle platoon commander, which I know a lot of people say inexperienced. Fair enough. I wanted him to have a little more survivability just in case. He's using an assault rifle because, again, we're building it straight from the core rulebook and not from the book, so he didn't have to pay extra points for it. We got 2 squads of 5-man grenadiers with 5 submachine guns each, taken veteran, so 2 5-man hit squads. And then we have a 5-man here grenadier section with 2 light machine guns taken regular to back them up. And then we have an inexperienced company commander who will be going in a Hanomag 250/1, taken regular, so that way we don't get the penalty to shoot with the machine gun. And so the plan is that he'll have the company commander and both of the SMG squads in the Hanomag. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. He then has a heavy weapons platoon commander who's taken inexperienced. He took a rifle on him just so he'd have a little more range for potentially throwing out a pin. I thought that was pretty smart. And then we have 2 medium machine gun teams taken regular, and 2 medium mortar teams with spotters taken regular, and an anti-tank rifle team. Because they do in fact have AT rifles in the German list. A lot of people are thinking Panzerschrecks and stuff, and I get it, but I like the AT rifles, so we threw one of those in. Just for some pin generation and possibly some unit removal. And then he's got an armored platoon with an early war Panzer III with the command vehicle upgrade, taken regular, and 2 Panzer IIs. He opted not to take, because I gave him the offer if he wanted to take Recce on him and make them Panzer II looks. He decided he didn't want too many complicated things. And honestly, I think he's probably right. At some point, I'm going to do a video talking about when it's a good idea to take Recce on a vehicle and when it's not. And in this case, for what he has in the army, I I think he's right. I think you want to use those 20 points on firepower instead of taking it on potentially some extra mobility. I also did kind of let him know, since you're facing a Greek army, you don't need a lot of escape probably. Against another army, you might consider it, but for today's game, I said you're not going to hurt because you don't have it. And then we'll see over the course of the report whether I was right. So to start off with our scenario, we're playing keep positions. We rolled up on in the chart. This is not the way that I would typically do it. I would just grab a scenario pre-built, but we decided to roll up on it, see what happens. And so we rolled for 5 objectives. They're spread out across the map. So you'll have one that's in a forest. That's at for most of the shots, the bottom right corner. You've got another one that's located that I then placed because he won the roll. If he placed that one, that was going to be pretty much in his deployment zone. And then the second one was close to my deployment zone. It was a little bit out of it, but in a ruined building because I wanted some nice defense going around it for whatever I put in. And then he put one on the other far extreme, what'll be the bottom left for a lot of the shots, on a hill. So that way he can get some protection and cover while being on the hill. So I kind of counter deployed by putting stuff in more or less my bottom right-hand corner across from it in a forested area with some defensive dugout positions. And then there's a fifth one that's kind of right behind that house. So he has 3 of the objectives on his side. I have 2 on mine, which means I will need to push up in order to get to the objectives in order to try to win. Infantry and artillery, of course, within 3 inches of the objective can control. Vehicles within 3 inches can contest. And we rolled up long edge deployment zones for our deployment. So at the end of it, this is how it looks when we look at deployment. The Germans are closer to you. That's his deployment zone. And so you see that he's got starting on the left-hand side, he's got a machine gun team kind of basically right up there on the objective, more or less. He's got 2 mortar teams pretty close by, taking advantage of cover, but also having the ability, if they want to be able to easily move over and be able to contest the objective. And then he's got an officer kind of tucked behind the hill. We talked through how morale bubbles and snap twos work, and I did confirm with him, like, nope, like you can be tucked away a bit. You just got to make sure that you're within the range. And so he tucked him away, and that way his inexperienced officer is pretty safe. He's got a Panzer III just kind of sitting there threatening. Because of how deployment worked, that was actually the last model that he placed. So he knew that my AT guns like exist, but where he was safe from both of them. So, he felt pretty good on that, and I agree. I think that's a good place to be able to put them while still providing supporting shots across the board. And then he's got his light machine gun squad ready to try to jump into those dugout positions and foxholes that are near the objective. So as long as he keeps his officer at that close point within the foxhole, he'll be within 3 inches of the objective. And then as you flip over to the far side, he's got another officer, kind of hanging out on the hill in the forest with the AT rifle team, which is a little tricky to see, but that's also on the hill helping to protect the objective, as well as a machine gun team. And then on the very far side, making sure that his half track is fully on the track, on the road, getting ready to go over the hill, which is obstructing quite a bit of line of sight and providing heavy cover against everything else. He's got his Hanomag with the company commander, both of the assault squads, and 2 Panzer IIs. He's going for the 5 squad snap, and he's got 5 really good options for that snap. And so he's going to try to roll that right-hand side just to keep me penned in, knowing that I have to come out. He's already got the advantage. So I need to start coming forward to him, and he's just going to punch toward me. Kind of similarly, working from the top of the screen, looking from left to right, you've got a Greek cavalry section that is starting off in rough ground, but we get fieldcraft on the first turn. So that's not a problem. We'll be able to move up pretty quick if we want it. And then we've got a mix of machine gun teams and mortar teams with an officer nearby in that forested area and dugout position right over there, guarding our objective that's at the top left. We've got an autocannon team and an officer kind of right behind where that bridge is, holding the center bridge. The thinking is we'll just provide some forward firepower down the range. If we need to pin the tank, we'll pin the tank. If we need to remove infantry sections, we should be able to shred with those, so that'll be good. And then we've got a mix of AT rifle teams and anti-tank teams kind of as you start spreading across the fielded area there. All of them in cover, all of them getting, some sort of save. but they don't have a whole lot to look at right now. So I left a ton of them on ambush, waiting for something that might pop up. If the LMG squad decides to run over toward the foxholes, we'll try to catch them in the open. If the tank moves up to get aggressive, we'll take them there. But otherwise, we've got some ambush options there, and then we've got both a rifle section and a cavalry section near the center. Rifles are planning to move up onto the hill where we've got some good heavy cover for good oversight of that middle objective. Try to clear everything off, force him to move men toward it, in which case we'll still have really good lines of sight to shoot at them. And then the cavalry section is designed to be able to push up toward that center objective because again we get fieldcraft, so starting them in rough terrain is not so bad. Then we've got a light autocannon and an AT gun providing cover fire against the hill objective on the right. We have an infantry section, which I realize from this photo direction is hard to see because it's hiding behind the ruined building. We weren't able to start in the ruined building because of its location and our deployment zone, but we're pretty close, so we should be able to get into it on turn one. And then we've got a light AT gun kind of hanging over there near the side, really just on ambush, waiting for the inevitable Panzer IIs and the Honda Mag to come over. And so that's where we start at the beginning of turn one. And even though I have 18 order dice and he has 15 order dice, he gets the first snap. And so, of course, he starts with a blitz. He gives it to the company commander, snaps another 5 dice. So he's down to like 9 dice in the bag at this point. And he moves everybody. He gives advance orders to literally everyone. I'll tell you now, it's brutal. The Honda Mag comes over and shoots at the light anti-tank gun and removes like a crewman or something like that off at the top. And then I think it's the company commander, jumps out with his submachine gun and with his assault rifle, and he takes shots at the crew, and he ends up hitting and wounding all the other crew. So the anti-tank gun on this far side is just gone. First activations on the first turn. The other submachine gun squad jumps out and starts putting some shots. I think they remove one guy and add a pin to the rifle section, but otherwise don't actually do as much as I thought they would. And then the other rifle section kind of moves out and begins taking shots at one of the spotters because they can't really see anybody else. They got kind of bottlenecked by the other squads, which happens when you're doing an advance order out of a transport. So just keep that in mind. But hey, thinking was he blinded one of the mortars. That's not bad. And then after all of that was resolved, and he's really aggressively holding this back objective, which I really do desperately need. The Panzer II start coming out, and they start throwing pins down range. They fire at the guys who are up on the hill. They don't really do much to them. They fire at the cavalry section as well, and they put 2 pins on them while also removing a cavalry model. So there's some wounding going on. There's some punishment going on this side. We're really on the back foot when it comes to this first snap. And then, in a surprising turn of events, even though I have I think 15 dice in the bag when you factor out the ambush orders, and he has 9 dice in the bag, he gets another activation. So he snaps the inexperienced officer, who then snaps all 3 of the weapon teams that are near him. He ends up putting, I think the machine gun team ends up going on a fire action. They end up kind of shooting down range at a bunch of the machine guns that are down the other way. And then you got some mortars going off, and oh no, one of them hits the green dice down there at the bottom. The one further to the right ends up hitting the. I want to say he shot both of them. Yeah, he shot both of them at the auto cannon, and one of them ended up hitting on the first turn, wipes out 2 of the crew. He ends up putting, oh, you know what? That's what it is. Yeah, he puts like 2 pins down on that side, and I think maybe the machine gun team fired at that instead. So he ends up with 3 pins on him and only 1 crew, which is really not where you want to start with an autocannon, despite the 4-up save that we were getting against everything. So that was exciting. Didn't really work out all that well for the crew right there in the middle. As this happens, he ends up snapping the additional crew. And I think what ended up happening is that I ended up getting the next activation as we're looking to what the mortars and machine guns are doing. My mortars end up firing back. He ends up going down, I think, against the mortars or something like that with the squad. So the squad doesn't actually end up moving anywhere. I think we ended up hitting, and we only ended up doing no wounds really. We ended up doing 2 pins to him. So his LMG squad is kind of tied down. But I think where they're currently deployed, they are technically still within 3 inches. So even though they aren't really threatening anything because that building's in the way, they're still technically holding the objective for him and doing the job. And then basically he's like, well, I'm just going to help to kind of clear some stuff up. So I'm going to fire the Panzer III, but we'll resolve that a little bit later because it comes a little bit later in the turn. The result is though is that even though we end up firing down range and trying to do some pins, and we end up removing one of the crewmen on the mortar team that's all ranged in, so that way at least they've they got a pin on them. Hopefully they end up missing, and if we can get some more shots down range, we will. He ends up shredding into this with his Panzer One. So he ends up removing two guys in one of the machine gun teams. The machine gun team sticks thanks to the officer, which is nice. And so yeah, like it's all a bit crazy going on over here. But to be honest, we're not doing well. Our small arms are not removing their infantry, and the Panzer tank is causing an issue because our anti tank isn't able to see him yet. I end up advancing into the building, and we end up taking some shots at him. So we ended up using the rifle section to fire into the veterans. We end up doing a pin and remove a guy, which is fine. And then we end up using, I think it's the AT rifle, to shoot at his other veteran section. And he ends up losing one man over there as well. And then my officer, my little inexperienced officer, moves up and takes his, 5+ to hit shots against the company commander who's in the open because he couldn't get to a place where he had cover while still being able to hit the anti-tank gun. And we're able to remove him. So the company commander is now gone. We do some shots with the autocannon up top against the AT rifle team. We don't remove anybody, but at least we do some pins. So it's always nice. And so as we get to turn two, things are looking pretty brutal, and it just kind of continues that way. I get the first snap, so I snap the guys that are in the building and have them shoot out. We remove two more of the veterans in that squad. He ends up activating just a bunch of guys after that. Slow and steady because he doesn't have the officer around to snap a bunch of them. But what ends up happening is that even though we're able to put pins down on his men, he just starts shredding through our boys. We end up wrecking away from one of the Panzer II shots. It's this back Panzer II on the far left, top left that you see. And so we're able to get around the building to completely ignore the shot. He ends up continuing to pummel the infantry that are up on top of the ridge. They're taking a lot of pins. They're not taking a lot of wounds. But the result is that we're probably at a point where we're going to have to start rallying in order to make it work. We are unable to do a lot of removal, though. So, I mean, as you can see, they still have 6 guys with submachine guns, and now they're down to less than 6 infantry inside the inside the building. So I'm not gonna lie, we're in serious trouble as regards this objective on the far side. We end up trading some shots from across the ways, but really not much is going on the hill. And then down on this side, the Germany just doubles down. I mean, all of that forward firepower is just pushing and pushing. They end up removing the infantry support, really. Both of the machine gun teams and the autocannons go down. So now it's just the mortars and the officer trying to hold on to this objective. That's all we have over here. We did end up last turn, we ended up moving up our cavalry on that far flank. They were able to move up. And so we ended up going in and we did an assault against the machine gun team because I knew we were well within 18. I figured this could hurt a lot, but you know what? We have to practice. We have to learn. We have veterans, so it probably won't hurt all that much. He ends up reactive firing to us, and he actually hits with nothing, which is a little crazy and definitely worse than he should have done. But we end up going in. He ends up removing one of us, which is about average, what you'd expect for 3 guys attacking veterans. We remove all 3 of them in an unsurprising event, and we're able to consolidate like 11 inches away. So we basically just hide behind the hill. The Panzer III can still see us, but we're obviously still getting heavy cover from it. So that's probably the best you can get. Heavy cover is going to be treated as a 5+ save instead of a 4+ for cavalry, but that's the best you're going to do on this side of the board for what the layout is. So we removed that. We were able to do a little bit of ranging in with both of the mortars. Both of the mortars end up hitting this turn. And so we're able to remove one of the loaders for the LMG squad, and we removed the entirety of the other mortar that had ranged in last turn. That mortar has already done its job, really, because the autocannon is gone. So, like, it's not a massive benefit, but, you know, like, hey, it's something. We removed yet another group of guys who could potentially contest this objective. And really not much more is happening on turn 2 because it's a lot of guys rallying or trying to move up into different positions. But as you go to turn 3, the left flank over here from my side is being rolled up. This is the German right flank. As you can see, like they just continue keeping their men there, and they're shooting at the guys trying to remove them all. And they're able to force the cavalry to move again. with the Panzer II, which is pretty crazy. But it does mean that, again, like I don't have these guys to try to help remove the infantry, which is problematic. He has kind of opened himself a little bit to that autocannon, but again, like autocannon is only pen plus two. There's not a high chance that it's going to actually do anything serious or lasting to the Panzer II. So he wasn't feeling very concerned about it, and truthfully, I don't think I'd be very concerned about it either. And so on turn three, the cavalry charge again. This time, using the line of sight of the closest guy, who's that guy right there on the step at the top of the screen. He ends up charging into the second mortar squad, and we charged in. We removed all of them without a casualty, and we fell back. He then kind of used the he used the inexperienced officer just to take shots. He's just declaring fire actions with this guy to just try to put pins down on the cavalry section, and I mean, it's an effective plan. That's a good way to use him. But just helping to try to time down. Maybe we fail, and he's really trying to set up for what the Panzer III can potentially do to try to knock us out. And so we'll see what happens with that. As we jump back over to the other side, the submachine guns jump in. The four guys that are still shooting, they just open up at point blank range with the fire action. They're able to remove half of the squad. Two of the guys that still remain. The other two fail their morale test because I don't have an officer over here anymore. And so you can see them fleeing over there off the top of the table. They're leaving, and that allows the two-man squad to just kind of advance in and just start taking shots at the cavalry. They end up removing one of them. And this is, by the way, the one issue with that recce escape maneuver that cavalry have. You have to be able to escape to a place where people can't shoot at you on the same turn in order to really make it work. So now he's got two guys in hard cover who are in rough terrain, defending a defensible position on the objective. And I technically don't have anybody on the objective. So this is going to be problematic. We start kind of shooting. We decide not to shoot at the Panzer IIs. I figured, hey, it might actually work better to take the double autocannon and shoot at the guys in the building, because if we can remove that two-man squad in the ruin, they can actually control the objective. If we're able to get the AT rifle team, or heck, even the cavalry section, close enough to actually control the objective while removing everybody else, then all that the vehicles can do is contest. So we're going to focus on those. So of course, with one pin on it, my autocannon goes down because it fails the order test. Classic. And we just start kind of shooting away with the AT rifle team. We end up doing a pin, no substantial wounds, which is fine. The Hana Mag ends up just shooting at, I think it was shooting at, I think that's how they shot at the autocannon. At the autocannon, that's how the pin arrived. But again, not too much going on over here. The big thing is we're going to need some serious reinforcements. The autocannons are continuing to plink away for the Panzer IIs on the guys up on the hill, which is quite effective. At turn four, we get a whole lot of stuff happening all at once. He continues shooting with the inexperienced officer because he's just afraid the officer is going to get removed. He draws another dice, and the Panzer III opens up and is able to remove like three of the guys in the section. Try to just activate them. I think it was a rally or something like that, just trying to get rid of the pins. And we failed that. Veterans are failing rally tests, and so we end up going down, which is not good. That's not what you want. But at least the mortars continue to fire on our side. We're able to snap a bunch of the mortars, and we're able to remove two of the guys. So he ends up keeping one guy who is within scoring range and maintaining control of the objective, and the officer. So at least we're removing firepower on the unit. They haven't really done anything all game, and hopefully we'll continue getting what we need in order to get them off the table. I also pushed up over these turns. The guys in the center, I've been moving up the AT rifle teams as best I could, and I was able to sneak one AT rifle team into the foxhole to actually like contest the objective over here. We end up getting some shooting against us from the AT rifle of the Germans that's over on the hill to the right hand of the screen. But he realized he's going to need some extra men over there in order to try to hold it. So he took a chance. He starts running his officer over. He's pretty sure he's within 18 inches. I'm pretty sure he's within 18 inches as well. So he takes some shots with the assault rifle. I don't remember what it was. It was just really bad shooting because it was only fours. Like it wasn't that hard to hit. Just didn't quite work out. And then the guys up on the hill, even though they have like 4 pins on them, I decided, since I had an officer nearby, just to try it, just to try morale 7 attempt at shooting at the officer, because I've got a light machine gun. I've got a couple of rifles in there still. So we ended up passing the order. We ended up shooting, and we're able to take him out as he crosses over the over that open area. So, hey, at least the squad on the hill, even though it's getting beaten up by the Panzer IIs, at least it's doing its job. And the cavalry go crazy. So I get the next draw, and I'm like, you know what? We're within 6 inches, so they won't have the ability to reactive fire. we're just going to try to wipe out this veteran submachine gun squad because if they get to activate, they are going to do murder to us. And so we run in there. I've got 5 veterans, Alta fighters. He's got 4 veterans, Alta fighters, and we're fighting simultaneously. And so in the first turn, he removes like 3 of me, and I remove 3 of him. So it's a push, and it gets down to 1 of him against 2 of us, and we remove the 1 of him, and he removes 1 of us. And so I have 1 cavalry officer left who ends up repositioning. He can move like, 7 inches or whatever. So I end up moving him behind the Hanomag because the Hanmeg's already fired. He'd already used it to kind of try to shoot again, trying to tie down that autocannon to save the unit that's in the that's inside. And I mean, he did a good job. I think I would have personally advanced and then done that because that way he could put it kind of in front of his officer and potentially block line of sight while also keeping it so that he wouldn't lose the Hanomag. But the way that this is working, because he decided to go down against a bunch of the shots that would come his way, he isn't going to be able to save the Hanomag. So the Hanomag is going to have to roll to see whether or not it sticks around. At the end of the turn, it is an armored vehicle, so in 3rd edition, it does get at least a chance to try to stick around as a fighting vehicle. Otherwise, we throw a bunch of pins effectively at this veteran section that's in here, but we aren't actually able to remove any of them because they go down. He's able to remove the inexperienced officer that was kind of creeping over to help out my guys. But yeah, and again, we still haven't done anything really of substance to the Panzer IIs yet. As we go to turn 5, it's mostly cavalry hunting. He ends up shooting at us with a bunch of his guys first. We end up rallying afterwards, and so we're able to remove all of the pins. That's why it kind of looks that way. The mortar continues firing in on the squad that's over there. He ends up losing 1 man, and so he has to take a morale test on 7 pins. Unsurprisingly, he doesn't get the double ones he needs, and so the officer runs off. And this means that, assuming that I can go down with my guy every single turn, I'll be controlling this objective and holding it, which is one of the ones I desperately need because we are not probably going to hold one of the ones on my side of the board. I tried to run another AT rifle over just for a bit of insurance. The thinking was run them into the building because even though going into a building isn't great, he doesn't have a lot of high explosive damage over here, and that's heavy cover that is well within the distance of the objective. He ends up turning his machine gun team and shooting at us across the way, though, and he's able to remove the entire AT rifle team section in a single go. So that plan was not great, and I'll be honest, in retrospect, was not well thought out because I could have run them to the side and parked them behind the forest. And then on the next turn, just eyeballing it, probably get 12 to get into the building. So that's what I should have done, but I didn't because I'm dumb. I did end up start moving over one of the mortar teams, the one that was ranged in on the enemy mortar. I started moving them up so you can kind of see the base of one of them and their order dice at the top left of the right behind that ruin. And the thinking is that gives me a second option for holding this objective in case the cavalry just get mauled or in case we need something to divert the fire of the Panzer III. I figure just having another mortar team over there can't hurt. They're not going to do much else, so we'll do that. And the Germans, as they're kind of wrapping up this, they just start leveling everybody. They start leveling the autocannon over here. They are down to like 1 man in the building. We're able to remove 1 of them, but I mean they've got what the squad up on the hill is down to 2 men, the officer and the light machine gun. So like they are realistically not going to be doing very much. The anti-tank gun over there is still like it's continuing to try to fire at the Panzer III, but it isn't doing anything substantial. And I'm down to 1 cavalry officer plus an AT rifle team effectively. So there's not much over here to deal with the Panzer IIs or even to deal with the 1 veteran who can just go down every single turn, and he's doing fine. This turn he didn't feel like he really had to go down, so he went ahead and did a rally order just to get rid of the pins. That way, if he wants to do something, he can next turn, which I thought was really smart. And as we head into turn 6, he snaps the Panzer II first, thinking, I'm going to try to take out the AT rifle teams. That way there's 1 less unit that could try to do something in order to get in there. He rolls up to point blank range. He's hitting on like 3s, and he rolls double 1s to try to hit. And it was at this point that I realized we might actually be able to make this work. And so what I did was I ended up doing a run action with the veteran officer to try to clear out the 1 remaining infantryman. So I did an assault, allowing him to strike first, which is not generally a good idea, but I decided to just try it. just to see what would happen. And he ends up swinging and he misses and he re-rolls and he misses, which against a veteran that kind of makes sense. It's about what it should turn out to. And then I swing and I miss and then I swing again with tough fighters and I hit, and so I ended up winning it 1-0. For consolidation, I don't even, because I know I'm like probably right at the edge of 3 inches in order to be away from this thing, so I just kind of stay right there. Because between the the Ruin providing protection from his cover fire units on the hill, and the Panzer II already having activated and him having to shoot from beyond an inch of it, I'm not too worried about the other Panzer II getting in range of me. So I figured out I'm probably okay where I am. It's probably one of the safest places to be. Over here, we had a kind of a funky thing. I then ended up just activating the AT rifle team just to help make sure that maybe I can, solidify this. And so I have him take a fire action at that nice side arc on the Panzer II. And I think the Panzer II had taken some shots and had taken some pins late in the last turn from the autocannon right before the autocannon died. But then I decided to take some shots over here with the with the AT rifle. We end up doing hit to the side. The vehicle just ends up going down and taking some extra pins, so it's just at 4. But the way I see it, hey, is one less unit that can try to solidify this objective. So, as we continue, the cavalry, since they now don't have any pins, they declare a run order. They're within 6 inches, which is how the inexperienced officer has been hitting as much as he has, because he's been at point blank. So we end up just running into him. We remove him. He doesn't remove us. We end up running, so we're completely behind the hill. So that way, we're not shot easily by the Panzer III. The mortar team then also ends up running onto this objective, and at that point, I've got 2 within scoring range of the objective. So my opponent actually makes a smart move. He performs an advance, does the 2 pivots, moves up, and he moves within point blank range of the AT rifle team over here. Now, the AT rifle team earlier in the turn had suffered a wound from, I think it was a machine gun team that was firing over at them. So it's down to 1 man. And his thinking is if I dump all 12 of my shots from my double coaxial machine gun and my forward facing machine gun into this guy, there's like no living way that he's going to survive. And that means at least we can clear him off of this objective and we can contest the objective, even if we don't have an infantry unit nearby to actually claim it. And I told him that is probably the smartest move because he's not going to be able to remove both of the squads from the hill, probably. So like your odds are better in terms of swinging the points for the final score by at least getting me off of it. And this is relatively low hanging fruit. So he ends up rolling up. He takes his 12 shots. He gets like 8 hits, which is pretty average for I think it was 3s to hit because he was at point blank range with moving. And then out of those 8 hits, he gets 4 wounds, which is pretty average. And so I'm sitting on, because I had gone down for the turn, I'm sitting on heavy cover from the foxholes as we had established earlier in the game, and then going down for an extra -2 is a 2+ save, and he only has to sneak 1 of those 4 in. And I save all 4. So the unit sticks around, takes a pin, but otherwise he sticks around and he's just right there when the game ends. And so in the final score, there were no open objectives. Everybody was scoring on something. I had 2 fully controlled objectives, and he had 1 fully controlled objective, and then I had infantry contesting 2 more objectives at the end of the game, and he had armor contesting 2 at the end of the game. And so the result is it was a win for Greece. And on the whole, just kind of reflecting on it here at the end, I think honestly, I think he played really well. I think there were some weird rolls that made it so that he wasn't able to get some of the stuff that he really wanted to do. He was running with the danger of running only like 3 5-man infantry sections, and that is one of the things you potentially run into with these kinds of lists, right? By investing so much in both the heavy weapons platoon and a transport and armor, he's looking at 2 5-man sections to try to take stuff. Because he wanted to have the company commander plus 2 squads instead of just 1, he kind of had to take them pretty much that small. Like, he could have fit in 1 more guy, but that was it. And honestly, I think if that's the case, that's fine. I think if I was making some changes to it, I would consider dropping maybe one of the machine gun teams and taking like another 5-man rifle section or something like that, just so he has like 4 squads. So that way you've got like, okay, I'm going to control one objective with my own infantry sections. I'm going to control another set of objectives with the rest of my support teams, because when you have 5, you're guaranteed to be able to place at least 2. And then I'm going to have like 2 squads just for pushing and maybe have 1 more squad in reserve. So that way, if there's an emergency somewhere, like that middle objective being cleared out by the mortar teams, he could move another team over there and just jump in the foxholes and go down, right? You don't have to worry about anything else really. You could just do that. And I think that would be pretty effective. But at the same time, like, I mean, the machine guns were doing work. They were doing quite a bit of wounds. They were putting pins down that did end up causing people to fail stuff and not be able to activate. So like it's not like they weren't doing anything. They were doing an effective job. It's just a matter, I think, of style and what one wants. In terms of grease, I mean, there are quite a few changes I would make, mostly just to make them more competitive, right? Like, I wouldn't be running AT guns. I'd probably run two more double auto cannons, and then maybe drop an AT rifle team in order to make the points for those, basically. And then shift around some of the other stuff. Maybe drop. Yeah, I think if I drop the AT rifle team and maybe one rifleman, I can fit in what I wanted. Uh, so like there are some changes I would consider making, but to be honest, like I mean, I thought on the whole the list performed fine. I think the units all did what they were supposed to do. You're generally not supposed to charge cavalry into actual infantry sections. You're supposed to charge them into team weapons in third edition. And the cavalry section that was charging team weapons removed a machine gun team, even through its reactive fire, a mortar team, and an officer. So like, I mean, I think on the whole, I think both lists were pretty effective at what they were designed to do. Just, it's a dice-based game, and sometimes things happen. And one might consider maybe beefing up certain things or cutting back on certain things, and that's really where the nuance for your specific style of play is going to come. So that's the wrap up. Greece is currently sitting undefeated. We'll see if that continues. I'll be using them for the next couple of battle reports as I prepare for this upcoming tournament. I've got a couple of other friends that I'm going to be meeting up with to come and play some games, which I think will be fun. If there are any changes that you would recommend that I make, I'm always up for suggestions. Would love to see what you guys think. Because I want to be able to, give you guys some content that you guys think is useful, but also keeping this on the shorter side. I'm not going to give you guys like an hour-long video, probably, hopefully, doing a review of this. But if there's other things you would recommend as adjustments or changes, I would love to hear that. Please let me know, and I will see you next time.